So our next panel discussion will be really interesting. It will be about building personal brands on social media with really brilliant speakers, David Justin from Vodafone, Joe Morris from Capgemini, and Todd Swan from Oracle, and with amazing moderator, Becca Chambers, the Chief Communication Officer and Control Up. So Becca will introduce everyone. So I will just let everyone on the stage. Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everyone. Shall I kick off?
Yeah, sure, please.
Thank you so much for joining our panel today. I'm Becca, and I'll be moderating this session today. So by way of introduction, I'm the Chief Communications Officer at a company called Control Up. It's a digital employee experience management company. And I've worked in communications for nearly 20 years, including 15 years in enterprise technology. I'm a huge LinkedIn nerd, and I spend way too much of my time on LinkedIn chatting about whatever comes to my mind, including neurodiversity advocacy and communications leadership hot takes. I have a lot of opinions. I'm also a writer and a speaker and a podcaster, so you can find more of my stuff online and in some publications like the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Fortune, etc. So I'm thrilled to be here with you all. Thanks for having me. We're also here with excellent speakers. Really awesome. Three gentlemen here. David Justin is the Director of Americas and Partner Markets at Vodafone Business. David leads Vodafone Business commercial operations throughout the United States, Canada, and Latin America, in addition to Vodafone Partner Markets, including France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, the Nordics, and Vodafone's international public sector customers. Sorry, that's a mouthful. For more than 20 years in international IT, telecoms, and sales, he brings a wealth of experience to the role, and David is a frequent contributor to industry articles and also a member of the Forbes Technology Council, publishing a blog every month. We also have Joe Morris, who is the head of social media and employee advocacy at Capgemini. Joe has over 20 years of digital marketing experience, having held roles including global head of social media. At Capgemini, Joe develops the employee advocacy program and helps teams and executives build their personal brands, reaching the right audience with the right message. Communications in a nutshell. And Todd Swank, Senior Director of Strategic Accounts at Oracle. Todd has excelled in positions from Senior Director to Vice President at top companies such as Oracle, Stebo Systems, and Nortec. A recognized social media influencer and engaging professional speaker, Todd actively uses social media to reach potential clients and maintain relationships with current clients. So now to the good stuff. So thanks for joining the panel today, guys. Today we're going to discuss personal brand development on social media from these three perspectives: how leaders can develop their profiles, how to motivate employees to manage their profiles, and how to use a personal profile on social media for lead gen, sales, and building client relationships. I'm certain that we're here for a great discussion, and it's even better if the audience is interacting. So I do encourage everyone watching, leave questions or comments in the chat, and I will address them and get them to our speakers. So I would love to hear from you all to get your thoughts on what we should be discussing. So first, we're going to discuss a leader's personal brand on social media. So kick it off by discussing how a leader can develop their own personal profile. David manages his own personal social media presence online. So David, we're going to start with you. Why and when did you start building your personal brand on social media? How have you kept it going? And what do you do to maintain it? Are there benefits to you personally as well as for your company, Vodafone?
Yes. Yeah, very good question. I use social media in the sense that I use LinkedIn. So you will not find me on Facebook or any of, let's say, the more personal social media channels. I've been on LinkedIn for a very long time, probably like from the start that it came out. I'm not a premium member, by the way. I'm also not a LinkedIn Navigator user, so I'm just a very basic LinkedIn user. I've used all the, let's say, premium services, but I actually get most ROI for myself and for my company, because I have a few hundred salespeople and marketeers and all that use the channels as well. And we basically just use, or the company only subsidizes and funds the basic function. And listen, I think LinkedIn is definitely a massive improvement, and social media as such, if used correctly, I think it's a really strong differentiator to, on the first side, differentiate yourself, because, well, it's in the end, it is not a company-owned content for us. So aside from maybe the company profiles that we have on LinkedIn or other channels, how you are on LinkedIn is your personal profile in the end. So how you use that, how you profile yourself, is basically how you personally decide how to do that. I use it, as I said, as it's my only, let's say, professional means of interacting a bit solely. And I think it's extremely important that how you brand yourself, that profiles are up to date, that they are definitely authentic. So on the one hand, to position yourself, but also to position your company. Vodafone is socially very active. We are a company that has values, has, I would say, products and services that not only serve the profit of the company, but that also serve communities and people around the world, making them able to connect to people, to content, to those kind of things that matter in the world. So LinkedIn to me is that extension to a much broader audience, to show myself, but also to show what my company is able to do. And I use that very actively. Not in a way to really sell, because I think if there is one thing that I think LinkedIn or social selling is not doing very well at the moment, is people trying to sell. I think there is definitely a lot of improvement on that. If I see how people try to sell to me, I see a lot of bad salespeople on LinkedIn at the moment, and I think there is definitely a lot of room for improvement on that. But I do think if you use it wisely, if you are authentic in the messaging, if you don't overload, if you don't use like personal things on there, I think is a big no-no. It definitely will allow people to forward your messaging, and it'll allow you to reach a much broader audience to have those messages come across. So that's a bit in a nutshell how I use it. But happy to hear Joe, Todd, and of course yourself. You seem to be much more active on media than I do. So maybe there's areas that I need to improve myself on, rather than just what I'm doing on LinkedIn. So looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that you make a good point. The pitch slap, right? Like, selling is broken when everybody feels like they're just getting punched in the face as soon as they get sold to on LinkedIn. So, we need to find a better way. It's not the old style of spray and pray, as we were hearing about last night. David or Joe, I saw you unmuted. Did you have a perspective on this, or shall we move on?
Well, just to say that I agree. I think the problem is that a lot of salespeople look at it as LinkedIn as a sales tool, and it's really a relationship tool. And I get tired of the connection requests, which are basically just a sales pitch. It's like, okay, let's be friends first, right, and then work out whether we want to work together.
That's right. I mean, you wouldn't just go up to a stranger on the street and say, "Hey, buy my thing." You have a soft opening first. So anyway, I totally agree. And I'm actually, to that point, Joe, you help leaders at Capgemini develop their personal profiles on social media. So how do you help motivate them? Because I've struggled with this in my career. You're the comms person, you do it, but they have to participate in order for it to actually work. So what challenges do you face? How do you get them to actively engage? And what benefits do they see from having a strong personal brand on social?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, it's difficult. It's difficult to get people to do it themselves, especially, the more senior you are, the more demands you have on your time. Why do I need to spend time on this social network? And I think the key thing is to demonstrate the value to them. It's a key step, I think, with any advocacy program, is you've got to sell it to them. advocate for the program internally, and make them understand why it's worth spending their time, what it can do to them, for them personally, in terms of their personal brand, their presence, invitations they might receive, that kind of thing, but also the benefits in terms of the relationships that they can build and strengthen using really LinkedIn. I think that's really the key, but also it depends on the role that the person has. It's making them understand that you are a voice for the company, and people do want to know what you have to say. Digital leadership is a hot topic these days, and I think especially like a lot of kind of younger kind of graduates, potential hires, they look for that. Do they see the leadership of the company on social? What kind of people are they? What do they talk about? What's important? What's the values of the company? And yeah, somewhere like LinkedIn is absolutely a fundamental part of that, to understand and to see that kind of, it's sort of indirect one-to-one connection with that person, especially, and David, you mentioned this, authenticity. So important, that they've got to, to be successful, you have to be willing to share a bit of yourself, just as you would in person. That you don't be afraid to be a little bit personal, and offer your own perspective. Very scary for a lot of people, for sure, but yeah, and probably not the best way to sell it to somebody directly is to say, well, share photos of your kids and your breakfast. We're not saying that, but it is really about the value of it. But also, realistically, often it's about helping them to do it until they get the point and see, oh yeah, okay, this is really working for me. Thanks, I got it now. That's the idea.
Well, and people like to buy from people, right? And if you can help put the person behind the brand, that helps everybody at your company make the sales. So yeah.
But also because you can show them, okay, your counterparts, your clients, they're using it, they're having these conversations. You're not in the room right now, right? I often think of LinkedIn as basically, it's just like a 24-hour conference, and with lots of conversations going on about all sorts of different topics. And if you're not there, then you're not involved in the conversation.
I actually think that's a really good way to sell it when you say it like that, like it's a 24-hour conference, because if you can create a little bit of FOMO, right? Where, I get that LinkedIn 5 years ago isn't what it is now, but LinkedIn now is a very important place for people to be. It is the digital watering hole now. And I think if you're not there, to your point, you're missing out on something and opportunities.
And there are genuine opportunities that come from it. We have examples of people being approached and about, asking about, actual sales opportunities, and as well as kind of, PR opportunities and things like that. So, there are real tangible direct benefits that actually impact your revenue.
No doubt. And now if you want to go find out something, our audience here, if they want to find out something about me, are they going to Google me? Or are they going to look me up on LinkedIn? Probably look me up on LinkedIn, right? And I think that says it all.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Joe. That was awesome, really insightful. So, Todd, I'm going to move on to you. I've noticed that you actively manage your profile. You're regularly posting content. Can you talk a bit about your journey and how you've developed your LinkedIn profile, how you use it, the amount of time you're spending, and more importantly, what you get out of it? But before you answer that, I see that there's a question in the chat that is related to this. So maybe we can kind of double up together, which is, how do you avoid feeling like a pompous buffoon when creating LinkedIn content, constantly posting your thoughts? And I'm not exactly, even on professional topics can make it seem like you're presenting yourself as overly self-important. And I think that ties nicely into that question. So,
Yes, of course. Well, I am a pompous buffoon in general, so no, I'm just kidding. But no, Becca, thank you. I wanted to open up by just saying thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this panel. I love this event and just think it's something I would just enjoy being a participant. So I feel very honored to be actually part of the show here. So thank you to you and to Olga. So again, my name is Todd Swank. I have been a little bit different than David. I tend to be an oversharer. I share a lot of myself online, been doing it for a long time. I've been fascinated with social media since the very beginning. I recently celebrated the 25th year anniversary of my personal blog, toddswank.com. I've been creating weekly blog posts about my life and my family and our adventures since 1999. And I've always jumped in when any new social platform emerges. I double checked before doing this. I posted my first videos on YouTube on December 19th, 2005, which was 4 days after it officially launched to the public. So I've been on YouTube since the very beginning. I've been on LinkedIn. I don't know when I started there, but for many, many years. My day-to-day job is I sell Gen AI and cloud infrastructure solutions to large enterprise customers. And I really find LinkedIn is my best way to connect with the target audience, both one-on-one as well as in mass with the larger groups of people. I use it constantly to connect with new prospects, stay in touch with current customers, and really, I do a wide list of tasks daily and weekly. First of all, anytime I have a meeting with somebody, anytime I meet somebody in person, the first step I do is I reach out to connect with them and just say, hey, let's stay in touch. It's a great way to just, connect with people that you've met once, and, you never find it often. Like 2 years later, all of a sudden somebody hits me up and say, hey, I noticed you do this. And, we met at a show once, and that's just great that we stay in touch. So for that, I just don't know if there's anything better than LinkedIn. I also use LinkedIn messages to reach out to people, to talk to people, to share what I do and how I might be able to help, ask them questions. I try to offer value in every engagement. On a daily basis, I connect with my entire network. I leverage all the LinkedIn, catch-up tools, whether it's the, wishing people a happy birthday or a happy work anniversary or congratulate them on their new jobs. It's just a way to constantly kind of put my name in front of people that, hey, I'm here. I love to collaborate. If there's any opportunities that we could work together, let's do it. I don't use the standard LinkedIn messages when I do the happy birthday thing. And I'm sure some of you people are like, oh, I hate that. I get 50 messages. They're all the same. So I always try to use a little bit of a different twist on it just to kind of stand out from the crowd on that kind of thing. And then I also try to share relevant content to my network on a daily basis. One post a day I think is plenty. But, I'm lucky. I work in a very large tech company. So we're constantly generating new innovations, new things that are interesting in the marketplace. So I have the opportunities to share those. But I also don't only want to share things about my company. So I really always try to find, different articles, different things that I think will be thought-provoking to my target audience, just to, again, kind of try to stand out and just kind of build that personal brand. I do post my weekly blog post every Monday on LinkedIn, which again is probably a bit of an overshare. More personal than the two previous speakers mentioned. It's worked for me. I also create an original article every week on LinkedIn, typically more focused on the solutions that I offer, the services that I sell to the customers. And again, you asked about time. It's a time-consuming process. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but it's really been very effective for me. As a matter of fact, in March of this year, I ranked #1 out of more than 10,000 enterprise sales reps for LinkedIn's social selling index score. So it's been working.
Totally. And, I think to the point about how do you avoid feeling like a pompous buffoon, you just have to start doing it. And the more you write, the less buffoonish it feels, right? Like you just start to feel like you're presenting yourself out there rather than a persona of yourself, which is all back to everyone's point. It's all about authenticity on LinkedIn. And that's what wins the day when it comes to content. So thanks, Todd, for sharing your story there. Absolutely. We have another question from the audience, from Marie. For the personal pages of top leaders, is it best if a person writes the post themselves, or is it possible to delegate content creation to copywriters. How can a natural tone of voice be maintained if you outsource it? Who wants to take that one?
Well, I use copywriters from time to time, but in the end, nothing goes out until I approve it and even amend it before it gets posted. So if I feel it comes over across unnaturally or unautistic or unauthentic, or I want to give a different swing, I will change it. But yeah, I think there's no problem in using copywriters because I don't have a lot of time sometimes to write a lot of context or write very broad paper about things. So I do give them my perspective on things. They will write a story and then I will amend it to make sure that when it gets posted, it's mine. That I really 100% agree with that messaging.
Yep.
I would say that it's sorry, Todd.
No, go ahead.
That it's very tough. For senior leadership, with the best will in the world, I think probably most of the ones that you see active on LinkedIn have a team that's helping them create content. That's just the way it is. Unless you're Elon Musk, of course, but although I don't know if I'd call that content, but so it's always going to be there. So the real challenge is, okay, how do you maintain that authenticity? And one thing is about having being clear on the person's audience and what it is, their kind of pillars. What do they talk about? What are the things that is interesting to them, and what's their point of view on it as well? Because that's super important, is to not just share generic message about we announced today, blah blah blah. It's about, okay, what is your perspective on that? And again, also actually the personal bit, be able to get a bit of emotion, feeling into it, not being afraid to share that, because that really aids connection. But it is very hard to how do you write for somebody else? And also the challenge that we have also is that because we have an employee advocacy platform that we use that we use to disseminate content to people. So then when you're writing that content, how do you write it for somebody that you don't know? You don't know who might share this. So how do you do it in an authentic way? And it's very tough, but there are certain kind of guidelines we have, like write it in the first person for a start, very basic level, and sense check. Well, if I could have posted that on the company LinkedIn page, would I post the same thing on my personal one? No, it's going to be a very different message. But so that isn't really a kind of clear answer to the question, because there isn't one other than, well, just keep pushing them to write their own. But yeah.
Todd, I know you were trying to weigh in earlier.
Yeah, no. The only thing I was listening to the previous panel or the previous discussion, and the topic of Gen AI came up. And with so many tools today to use to create content and to do things like that, how do you still sound authentic if you're using Gen AI in it? And so when I use it in my personal blog from time to time, I just treat it like a personal assistant, and I just keep talking to it and keep, going back and forth saying, hey, I wouldn't say it like this, or I don't like that line. And I just keep doing that over and over again until I'm happy with it. And honestly, it's my voice, but it comes out sounding way better than how I'd say it, because I sit there and I push back on Gen AI until make that me. And then, like I said, me plus Gen AI, it's the most powerful tool I've ever seen in my 54 years on this planet. And anybody who's not using Gen AI in their day-to-day life, their day-to-day job, their day-to-day content creation, you're missing out, because there's just so much opportunity. And what I tell people all the time is Gen AI today is the worst it's ever going to be, because every day it's getting more powerful. Every day it's getting better. And to use it as a tool, it's going to make your life better. It's going to help you in your job. It's going to help you with efficiency. It's going to help you to be able to do all the things that you say you don't have the time to do better.
Totally. And I think the operative word there is tool, right? It's not a replacement for anything. It is an awesome tool. I created a Becca GPT that I've trained it on my voice. And so if I want to edit something, like just a bunch of word vomit that I have, it will at least help me get started. And it's in my voice. So to your point, I can have a conversation with myself. And it is the best way to unlock ideas in your brain, right?
100%.
It's awesome. And I'm going to just interject my opinion, even though I'm the moderator, on what I do. Part of my job is writing content for other people and writing content for executives on social. And I think the most important thing is that you cannot do it without their participation. And it's not just about capturing their voice, which is obviously essential, but it's really, you cannot tell authentic stories if you don't have authentic stories to tell. And just posting company content is not going to create those connections that you're trying to create to put the face behind the brand. So I think making sure that you have the buy-in and some amount of time, whether it's just getting on for an hour, a month or something with that executive, is what makes or breaks outsourcing executive content on social media. So now that I have the mic again, let's dive into another topic. When it comes to personal branding on social, how do you motivate employees to manage their profiles? And Joe, you mentioned your employee advocacy program at Capgemini and how it helps teams and executives build their personal brands successfully. So can you quickly explain what employee advocacy is, how you rolled it out, and how do you motivate the employees to continue to join it and then continue to use it?
Sure. Well, I mean, employee advocacy. Our approach to employee advocacy is that it's making sure that every employee understands that they have a voice, and enabling them to use them for good, not bad. So that's a key part of it, though. Is lots of people want to talk. Use social media. Of course, lots of employees using social media in their personal lives already, of course. So one is about letting them know that it's okay to talk about company content, but understanding what the guardrails are. Super important, first of all, is, especially because a lot of executives will look at the idea of having employees talking about your business as a risk. So we have to kind of try and de-risk it by providing guidelines. So we have a code of conduct, which you could summarize basically as don't be stupid, and it comes with a mandatory training session that everybody has to do. So 300,000 employees have done it, and so it's good for them. And okay, what can I say? What can't I say? And it's good for the business as well to give them that comfort level as well. So I think that's super important. So that's great for people that are already motivated to talk about it. The other thing is also, okay, what do they say? So of course we can't control what every person publishes on LinkedIn, and nor do we want to. Frankly, I don't have time for that. But it is about giving them core messages. A lot of it comes actually, though, really, it's about the culture of the company and the values of the company, and that fostering a culture where people, like being employed by you, and are having good experiences that they want to share, but also that there are things that maybe they're proud of, that we're doing cool stuff, right? And we've got great research and great insights, cutting edge, all that kind of stuff, right? Those are the kind of things that people want to talk about and maybe brag about a little bit. I think with social media generally, and this kind of comes back to some of the other questions, is that it comes naturally to some people and not to others. Some people, it's just a natural reflex to share. And so you just got to kind of give them a little bit of a framework to be able to do that safely within. And for some people, it doesn't, and probably will never do that. And so the challenge with running an advocacy program, so we have one that's focused on our subject matter experts, is okay, filtering out which one are you, and are you going to be doing that? And yes, we can try with everybody to, like I said before, about talking about the value of it, the benefit of it. But after a while, you have to recognize this person's not going to do it. So let's shift our focus to somebody else. I don't know if that answers your question, actually, but yeah, that's
Well,
part of
and
the
there's
challenge.
a lot of data that shows that people are more trusting of content that comes from other people and not from brands. So if you're
100%,
able to
yeah.
help your employees, who are without question your best brand advocates, we should be tapping into them and leveraging them. And this is
That's why you want employee advocacy, is because, and also because we know that, like on LinkedIn, for instance, corporate organic content doesn't do very well. And the algorithm's actually actively kind of suppressing it. That so really, advocacy is really your route to market on social. Other than spending a lot of money.
Well, and it goes back to the executive social, right? Like people are more trusting of your executive's voice on social than it coming from the brand, even if they're saying the same content. So people want to buy from people.
Yeah, and if you want to motivate your employees, then have your leadership doing it, and then make sure that they are championing it and encouraging their team to do it. That makes such a massive difference.
Totally. All right, Todd, how about Oracle? How is employee advocacy set up there as both a participant and as an organizer? Do you think, what are the things that are key to getting employees to manage their social media profiles, and what are the benefits for employees and companies building their profiles on social?
Yeah, it always amazes me when I see somebody that doesn't put time into their profile. It becomes pretty obvious, or see some people, without even pictures and things like that. Now I'm in sales, so most of the people that do what I do spend time and do it. So, there's naturally going to be just that motivation, since, we're working with clients and we need to be able to get out there, and LinkedIn, again, is such a good tool to do that. Again, I'm blessed that Oracle offers so many different training opportunities to help us leverage social media. We have programs, they're constantly giving us relevant content to share, relevant articles for people who don't want to spend the time to, come up with their own posts. Honestly, I don't leverage those as much. I do use them a little bit, but for the most part, I like to come up with my own unique content. Again, help stand out from the crowd, allows me to put my own unique spin on things. I loved Joe's comment about don't be stupid. I try to live my life when it comes to social media that way, because, every day you're trying to be out there and stand out from the crowd. And, obviously being provocative, being, saying something out there might get you more attention, but that whole don't be stupid part, it can come back and cause you problems down the road. So, again, I always try to keep a positive voice and a positive spin. Lucky I'm kind of a geek, so I really love the solutions, the innovations that I bring to market and talk to customers with. So that certainly helps, being able to just be really fascinated in what I do and how I can help customers solve problems. When it comes to motivation, to me, social media, my profile, it's my window to the world. It's an integral part of what I do every day, and I'm constantly meeting new people on LinkedIn, really, on a daily basis, who are, I collaborate with to help me to achieve my goals. And, hopefully I can do the same for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I find all sorts of opportunities on LinkedIn, especially, but social media, it just opens up a whole new world.
Absolutely.
David, does Vodafone have an employee advocacy program? And if so, how does it work, and what benefits do you see?
We don't have a specific a program. We do, of course, stimulate using LinkedIn and those kinds of platforms. We do, we also publish content for people to use. I think over the past few years, and I think COVID kind of accelerated that, is how we encourage people to use it. So I think all in the beginning, definitely in the COVID era, we started measuring people on SSI. SSI as a KPI for our salespeople to really like jack up, let's say, people's awareness of social and using and really realizing the benefits. And we measured that for a bit over a year. And like we would have leaderboards and all that kind of stuff to see how people's SSIs were going up. We would have sales managers sitting next to, well, not sitting next to, but virtually sitting next to salespeople. Like, how do you position yourself? Webinars and all that kind of stuff. At the moment, we kind of stopped that a bit, like a little bit more micromanagement of SSI and that kind of stuff. Yeah, for me, I think building a bit on what Joe says, leading by example as a leader, I think it's important that our leaders show how we profile ourselves on LinkedIn and social media. Maybe going back to the SSI days, I was always top 5 because I think I need to practice what I preach and how I profile myself and all that for my teams. I think it's super important that we do that the right way. So no real, I would say, a program that we use, but I think definitely some principles and practices that we have to be more effective in how to use it.
And so I have a follow-up then for all of you, which in my career, we have done a lot of gamification when it came to getting employees to use social and the messages that we want them to post on social. Is that something that you guys have used successfully in your programs?
We have an element of it related to the application that we use, and where certain activities using the app, sharing content, things like that, you get points. Of course, there's leaderboards, but really nice thing is that we partnered with a company that plants trees, and so basically we're able to reward people with trees. And these aren't virtual trees. It is actually a tree we are actually funding actual trees getting planted. And, you can see your forest and how much CO2 has been absorbed and things like that. I think that's nice. I mean, I think with those kind of incentives, some people are incentivized by a leaderboard and being the top of the leaderboard, and some people aren't. What we're thinking about more and more is, well, what about kind of tangible things? Give people a T-shirt and things like that. Partly as a acknowledgement that somebody's done something well, but also it's a promotional tool, right? Something they wear in the office, and people are like, "What's that? How did you get one of those?"
Totally. And I found a lot of success also in just showing the leaderboard in all hands or town halls or whatever to say, hey, look, these are our social, the people here who are really carrying our message. And like you said, a T-shirt or whatever, because then more people see it and they're like, oh, I didn't know I could be on that. How do I get on that? And then you're promoting your message. Yeah.
Right.
You find your competitive people and you tap right into that. And so somebody wants to win the leaderboard, always. Yeah.
Yeah. You do get some people who actually react quite negatively, quite strongly to that as well, though. The idea of being rated in some way.
No question. I know. Well, we have another question actually from the audience. Jessica said, we have an employee advocacy program, but I feel like it's so ineffective. Our compliance team makes us put in disclaimers, even though we are trying to make it sound like they wrote it themselves. Ouch. Legal kills comms sometimes.
Yeah. I would say that's a nightmare. I'm sorry for you. I mean, that kind of thing has come up before, and should people put disclaimers in their bios and things? And, we know, one, they're not legally binding in any kind of way, and two, nobody cares. So I think the way that we've got around it is, one, by, trying not to talk to lawyers too much about it for a start. But also, like I mentioned, the code of conduct gives us that kind of leverage to make sure that people aren't saying the wrong thing, they aren't representing themselves to be something that they're not, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, we also have to be vigilant, right? That monitoring and monitoring LinkedIn is such a nightmare, but is okay if you see something that's like, nah, I don't think you should mention that, then you have to see that post and then act on it. as well. But yeah, you can't be putting in legal disclaimers and things in messages, because then immediately it kills the message completely dead.
Even
So
in
yeah,
your corporate messages, not even just your employees' messages, your corporate messages also should not have legal disclaimers. You know, you have it on the website and you may be somewhere else, but not in your social media content.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that you can also do is have a public social media guidelines on your website, and you could always have people link to that in their bios if you want, where you can put in a blanket disclaimer there if you want. But yeah,
I much prefer your compliance program and don't be stupid. That's a pretty good blocker right there.
I mean, that's why social media guidelines are really important, the same as brand guidelines are really important, or an internal code of conduct is really important, because then people can't say, oh, well, I didn't know better. But it's like, well, you should have known better. You signed a thing that said you knew better. And then it's on the company to help with educating, right? How do you make sure your employees are not misrepresenting your brand online? You don't get to control what they say, but you can say, you're not allowed to say that about us, right? Things like that. Fun.
Also, the thing is that social media tends to be self-regulating, in the sense that if somebody's behaving badly online, then you'll hear about it, right? And something to make clear to employees as well. You might not say that your employer is Capgemini in your bio, but somebody's going to go searching and they're going to put two and two together. Then they're going to send us an email to complain about you because you're being mean. So there's that. I think that's really useful, because we have over 300,000 employees. We can't be everywhere all at once. So we really rely on the community to help us monitor
that. I see another question from the audience. Nathan is asking, what are some results coming from social media usage on LinkedIn? Are there any examples based on your own experience?
I got plenty, but one, when I saw that, some of the things we talked about earlier about just being authentic and truly care about people. I know David mentioned earlier about being annoyed when people just start trying to sell to you right away. I mean, obviously, in a cold intro, you got to come in a little bit with who I am. But by showing genuine interest, truly caring about people, their problems, what they're doing, what they're sharing, and really focus on it, you can separate yourselves from the crowd that way. I think of a CFO that this was a few years ago, we were trying to get him to talk to us, try to have a conversation with us. Couldn't do anything. I had inside sales reps working on it. Myself was working on it. And one day I remember on LinkedIn, he posted an article about his son's robotics team in school doing well in a competition. And my sons were both on the robotics team at school. And so I just reached out to him and said, hey, saw this, shared some of the information about my kids. And sure enough, he responded right away. We had a nice dialogue, and it ended up leading to a real conversation. So you can't do that by just, coming in hard and, hey, buy my stuff. And I got the greatest, stuff out there, better than the competition. But if you genuinely show interest in people and truly try to learn about them and what motivates them and drives them, it can really be effective.
I guess it also depends. What are you trying to measure? Are you trying to measure brand awareness? I think for us it's difficult. I haven't really seen any way that we can assess, for example, what is Vodafone's brand awareness in the market by using social media on LinkedIn. I'd be keen if there are ways to do that, to hear about that. Personal branding, yes, definitely. Yeah. So you can, but again, how do you measure it? What the success could look like? Is a lot of likes? Is that success? Are you reaching your target audience? So you'll definitely reach an audience, I think, by using LinkedIn. But is it the audience that you want to reach? So I sometimes see from my posts that I will reach one of my existing network, and most commonly, I will reach the people that work for me. And those are typically the biggest chunk of people that like the stuff that I put on. So you can see results, but are those the results you want to hit? And what is in the end the actions that you take to reach a much broader audience, to reach a much wider, let's say, customer base, or you want to increase lead generation and those kind of things? I think for me, it's still a bit unclear. How do we get to measuring really success on LinkedIn? Because connecting to a customer, a partner, someone, I think you could call that success. But what in the end is that going to generate? You'll have some personal, let's say, brand awareness that goes up, but is it going to generate business in the end, or is it going to get you a better job after a couple of years? So for me, that's still a bit of an unknown, how successful sometimes it is and how you measure it.
I think that the most important thing you can do is figure out what are your goals, and they're not ever going to be the same, right? Your company might want to hire more people, right? We're going to have a hiring campaign, and how do we create momentum on LinkedIn? And then you can measure that. Did that create a bump in links back to the hiring page? Did that increase the number of people applying for a job, right? So it really depends on what are the goals for being on social in the first place. Joe, did you want to weigh in? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so much of it is about intangibles, isn't it? It's that perception, and how do you measure that? Apart from doing surveys and things like that, that's really hard. I mean, measurement generally is something that we put a lot of thought into and had a lot of conversations about. And yes, we can measure metrics, but what's the actual business impact on that? Is very difficult. Really hard to measure. There's a big gap between a LinkedIn post and a sale, right? So that's very difficult. So then it is about like individuals. What is their purpose? Who is their target audience? Who is it they're trying to reach? And somewhere like when it comes to like account-based marketing, it becomes a little easier, or at least more tangible. Because then okay, this person is account manager for X company. Okay, are they part of his network? Have any of them interacted with his content? Right, that's there. You can start to actually see it. I mean, actually getting that information is hard. But yeah, so it really varies.
Yeah. And just as a personal anecdote, I started posting very regularly at the beginning of this year, and I went from 4,000 followers to 18,000 followers since January. So just from like what am I getting out of it? I am suddenly reaching all of these communications people. I'm on a mission to change the way that people feel about communications. And now I have 10,000 new comms people who I'm also talking to who also agree with this. And we can all start to further this goal together. What am I getting out of it? My goal is to get this message out. So now we're all amplifying it together. So it really just depends. It's goal oriented. What are your goals? And then how do you back into those goals? So let's pivot to the last topic, which is about how social can be used for lead gen. And I think that this is a perfect segue since we're talking about what results does social get you. So Todd, I'd like to start with you since I know you actively use social to build relationships with clients and connect with new ones. So what does that strategy look like? What steps do you take? And one of the questions from the audience is, how do you build relationships? Let me get the exact wording from the audience here. It's approachability. I've noticed there's a lot of conversations around short form video. How have you addressed this in your content? Oh, wait, sorry, that's a different question. Carry on. Ignore me.
No worries. You want to go, or did you want to? Okay. Did you want to finish that or thought or?
I'm going to ask my first question again. How do you use the social to connect with clients? What strategy do you use? And then I'll go to the next question.
No worries. So again, I've been doing business to business sales, B2B sales for more than 30 years. I think salespeople are really motivated by processes that work. And again, as we've said over and over again, LinkedIn works. I use it constantly to find new opportunities, to progress existing opportunities, and to close opportunities. And especially, when it comes to finding new prospects, if I want to build new pipeline, I create a campaign and I follow a pretty simple formula. First, I clearly identify what problem am I solving. Next is who has that problem. And third is, how does my solution do it better than the competition? I then use LinkedIn to build a list of relevant prospects. Then when I have all of this information, I execute a simple 9-step prospecting campaign, which leverages email, phone calls, and LinkedIn messages on a regular cadence to engage with that target prospect list. Once I get through that list of all those 9-step campaigns, I measure results and I determine, all right, did this campaign work? Do I want to continue the same campaign with a new list of prospects? Or it was not so great, maybe I'll start over and create an entirely new campaign. It's really, in my career, it's been a very effective system, and LinkedIn is just a key part of it. Oh,
I can go next because I have quite a few salespeople in my teams. So I think we definitely use emails and all that. I think maybe for the salespeople out there, I think quality over quantity. I think LinkedIn gives you access to many people, but a bad message to a prospect or a future customer sent to 1,000 people is going to give you 1,000 times and no success. I think 99% of all the LinkedIn messages or email that I get personally, because I also buy, is salespeople who do not know what I do. Like, I've gotten people trying to sell me aluminum roof or franchises and it's constantly, or trying to just set up a meeting with me where they try to say, yeah, I just want to talk to you because I want to get to know you better. The messaging and understanding who you are sending it to, what this person's world is about, the challenges that they are facing, and then in a very, very concise, good way, give some kind of an insight that you could resolve that problem. It's not easy. It takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of work, but just a few of those to some people will get you so much more effect than sending 1,000 messages or 10,000 emails where you are actually just saying nothing. If for the salespeople on there, and it's also the advice that I give to my sales, understanding your customer is so massively important when you try to communicate with them. Being precise, don't pitch too hard, not too long messages. Long emails, I think, is horrible. Just short messaging, understand customer and what you could potentially do for them, and if they have time. And don't give them like a link, like please book a meeting in my agenda, because I find that horrible that I need to click and then I need to go in their agenda and then I need to solicit for a 20-minute slot on someone's agenda. Some of these tools are just wrong. I think connection is massively important. Understanding your customer, like who is it, what does he do, how does he profile himself, how does he position himself in a customer. I think an email sometimes is even better than an email. A telephone call can also be extremely powerful because nobody calls anymore nowadays. So as soon as like an executive contact gets a phone call nowadays, if it's a real number, they typically pick up. So combination of those things, but understanding customer is front and center of everything, and being able to deliver a very concise, powerful message. You'll get very far with that, but people do definitely would need to work on that.
There's little that I dislike more than just the message that just says, hi, how are you? With no context or whatever. Because if someone were to just like yell that to me in real life, hi, how are you? Rather like without any context, you're just kind of like, what? It's a weird, I don't know. It's a weird thing when there's no personal introduction first, you know. At least compliment my shoes or something before you come in and try to sell me something. Todd, did you have anything to add to that?
So much. I mean, everything David was saying, I was like, yes, so true. I mean, the days of, I go back to mass email blasts, even mass fax blasts back in the day when you could do that. But yeah, you got to personalize everything. You can't, you really got, anytime I send a message, an email, I do as much research I can on that person, try to get to that point of who that person is, what is their problem, what problem are they trying to solve, and how I might be able to help them do that and be extremely concise. You can't have, nobody has the time anymore to read paragraphs on an email. If you can't say it in a paragraph or less, it's probably not worth even trying.
David, do you use social to build relationships with current or new clients?
Yes, all the time. So I will do it all the time, but I will also use, again, I will use email as well. I will make them personal. So whenever I send a connect request, so I don't just follow. I don't really like that function in LinkedIn. So I do connect, and I will always send a personal note. I think just connect and then nothing.
What does
I
it
will
say?
say, yeah.
What does the
I,
note
I will
say?
I will just say, hey, it was great. Typically, I will do it after I've met someone, so I don't just connect to people that I haven't met yet. I will say, hey, it was really nice meeting you. Looking forward to connect, David. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
Joe, what about you? Do the sales managers at Capgemini participate in, well, you launched an ABM program, so I guess you can talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that, but how does that work with social?
Well, so we're in the process of doing that at the moment, and we're learning as we go and making it up as we go, quite honestly, because we
Yes.
haven't done this before. But it's understanding, okay, sales, what do you actually do? How do you work? And then figuring out, okay, how can we help you to use social to supplement what you do in real life? And so we're looking at, okay, first of all, are you guys using LinkedIn? Are you using it well? Is your profile good? Okay, let's give you some guidance on how to improve your profile, and then how to use it, and then how to it's sort of kind of LinkedIn sort of best practices about, okay, yeah, do you hit somebody with a connect message immediately, or do you then actually just start following their content, start responding to their content, have a conversation, and then lead to a connection, for instance?
So you train your employees on this?
Well, we're going to. We haven't started
In
yet,
theory.
but yeah, that's the idea. Is that it is to actually be able to. And what we'd like to be able to do is take specific teams, priority accounts, and coach them through the experience. But we're at the stage now, just trying to understand what do they actually need.
Yep.
Because that's a thing that we really learned with marketing and with account-based marketing is that we need to work with them and understand what they need and make sure that what we're doing is complementary to what they already do, rather than, okay, we're forcing you now to use this other channel, because that doesn't really work very well. So so we're at the start of our journey with account teams, but that's it. It's also, okay, Sales Navigator, do you have a license? Do you know how to use it? Are you using it well? So that's something that's very tangible that we can train people on how to actually make best use of it. So that's what we're planning. And then also what we want to move on to more and more is, okay, there's a specific, like there's an event happening, for Paris Motor Show is happening next month. So okay, we work with the automotive team. Okay, then how can you use advocacy to supplement what you're planning to do already? And then for the account teams, okay, does it play a role for you? Is it just about positioning the account people as subject matter experts? Because I think that's really important, that it's not just about those few decision makers that you're targeting at this company, but it's also about the presence, awareness of Capgemini, the brand, and what it can offer as well. And that is just about sharing content, and not just branded content, but third-party content,
Right.
having something interesting to say about it, having a perspective, and then you build up your influence, and then you can start to use that to convert people sharpen into the pipeline.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do think that kind of, employee advocacy, giving people the tool is one thing, but then really empowering them with how do you use LinkedIn, not just how do you optimize your profile, but how do you optimize your profile? How do you start conversations? How do you use all of these tools and this data to do your job better? I think that's the next frontier for social
and
selling.
understand the algorithm. How does the algorithm work? And
have experts teaching them, rather than having them trying to figure out for themselves, or the few motivated salespeople who do know how to do it. Like, let's share knowledge and let's have it be part of sales
training
training,
is critical.
right? Yeah. Anyway, I think we are at time, and that is all we have time for today. But I want to thank everybody on the panel today, David, Todd, Joe. This has been an awesome discussion, very insightful, and I'm sure that our viewers are walking away with some new ideas. Speaking of viewers, thank you all for joining today, for your time and your questions and your comments. If you have questions that didn't get answered, or you have specific questions for any of us, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. We are all on LinkedIn. There are QR codes with links to the profiles that are on the screen or will be on the screen. There they are. So to wrap up, thank you everybody. I hope you can all appreciate how powerful personal branding and your profile on LinkedIn can be, whether it's for your brand, your personal brand, or your company's brand, or building a strong HR brand, or attracting new clients or partners. Social media can do all sorts of things. So if you choking over my words. If you know your goals, you can back into them, and social is an absolutely fundamental tool for that. So thanks to our speakers, and that's it. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Thank you, Olga.
Yeah, thank you so much, Becca. You're a great and energetic moderator. Thank you so much. So yeah, let's go to the next session. But before that, slides of a little bit additional value as well. Some social selling case studies, just to get maybe inspired, motivated to learn more about the real results of the project, of social selling project. We shared some of our case studies with Microsoft partner, with NetApp itself, and with Georgia State University. So you can find them by the links, and we will share these slides after the conference, so you can find them after that. So it's okay if you don't have enough time to read all of them right now.